Papa, ooh, this gonna be nice, Papa. Ooh, ooh, Papa, it's already starting to look like the front of the box. He will leave back out the room and come back in and encourage me again. Woo, Papa, you almost finished. I can't wait for you to get done. All of a sudden, I started expediting what should have taken me a little longer. I was ready to take a break. I was ready to quit. But because he came back in and encouraged Brittany, because he came back in and told me I was doing a good job. Now, I'm not saying that God needs your approval. I'm not saying that God suffers with low self-esteem. But every now and then, you ought to encourage him and say, Lord, you're doing a good job. God, can't nobody beat you being God.
I'm in the magnificent city of Phoenix for a change.
Yeah.
I'm with this wonderful pastor right here, and we got a treat for you. But before we start, as I always say, would you please subscribe to the channel? This is content from my heart to yours. Pastor Jack Spencer. Praise the Lord.
Woo! Bless you, sir.
You're cool.
Man, I try to do what I can.
and you're a humble person, too.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You know, my mind goes back, you know, when I first moved here, I was trying to get involved.
Yes, sir.
You know, pick up the pieces.
Yeah,
from,
yeah,
you know, what I
absolutely.
was doing in Chicago. And you opened your doors to the church.
I remember that.
Yeah.
813. I remember that. Yes,
you know,
sir.
you didn't even charge me anything either.
I remember that.
I
Yes,
got to the point that I was like, you know, forget it, I'm just slide something under the door. So we're in Phoenix, Arizona, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is some scorching heat out here.
It is.
So how are you, Justin?
Man, I don't think you ever get acclimated to the heat here. I'm originally from Ohio, born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. So I'm accustomed to that Midwest, you know, winters, you know, summertime where it's 80, but real sticky and muggy. 118. It has been probably one of the worst summers we've had in a long time. So it's been extremely hot, but even out all the 16 years I've been here, I've never really grown accustomed to the heat. You just learn how to navigate.
Survive it.
Exactly right. You know?
When I first moved here, of course, this church was named another, if I'm not mistaken, Grace.
Yep, Grace Temple.
Right?
Yep, Grace Temple.
What inspired the name change?
So in 2019, the Lord allowed us to secure a new facility. We were going from the place that we were at 813 West Buckeye, and we were moving to the place that you're in today. And so when we transitioned, the Lord had laid upon my heart with every major change in the lives of the people of God. He gave them different names. He named the places, you know, different things, whatever the case may be. So he gave me the sanctuary to make this a safe place, a place of refuge where anybody can come in, no matter what you've experienced, no matter how life has beaten you up. We're here to
Wait a minute now. Wait a minute. So you're not a native of Phoenix. We already established that. So let's delve into your gospel diary.
Okay.
By starting with your humble beginnings. Let's talk about Ohio. What city were you?
Okay. Born and raised in Cleveland, Cleveland, Ohio. I'm a pastor's kid. So grew up in the church, been in church all of my life.
All your life.
Oh man. As soon as they released my mother to come back to church, that's how long I've been in church. My grandmother, as a little child, my grandmother was a church organist.
Really?
So my grandmother was the organist for the church. It was the funniest thing ever. She would put on white gloves like she was an usher, and she would play the organ with her white gloves on. It was the strangest thing ever, but that's how she played the organ. And so she was a church organist. I was a drummer as a child. So I played the drums. I was content playing the drums. My father had took over, my grandfather pastored before my dad. And so when my father started pastoring, my father told me that I was going to be the next organist. And so I was like, I don't know what he saw, but he saw something. So he brought me up to the front, anointed my hands with oil, anointed my head with oil, and said, hey, you're going to play. And I went back and started playing a little bit. But it was a foundation that was laid. And so I started pecking with one finger and then really started learning how to play. And the rest is history. I was a church organist, you know, played for different churches and groups and all that type of stuff.
So it's safe to say that music ministry started first before the clarion call to
Absolutely.
ministry. So you started playing for the church. What age were you?
I was in high school. It's funny. Yeah, I was probably, when I started playing for the church, I want to say I probably was a freshman in high school, somewhere around there. Prior to that, I was still on the drums. So I was good with the drums. I'm cool. I don't ever have to transition to anything else. So I did that for a while. and then I transitioned over to the keys. So.
Now, you know, musicians in the church, they're rock stars.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So first of all, you're PK.
Yep.
You're a drummer. Now you're packing on.
Yeah.
A lot going on.
Oh man, yeah.
Okay, so now you're reared in the church.
Yes.
So let's talk about your adolescent years.
Okay.
You know, did you ever feel alienated in schools among your peers?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a pastor's kid. You know, I'm really a church boy at heart, but I'm trying to fit in with everybody else. So one of my peers in school was a church boy as well, and he didn't mind being a church boy. So we would be in band, and he wanted to play shouting music, and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not having everybody in this school talking about me. So yeah, no, I wanted no parts of it. I really wanted to fit in with everybody else, and so yeah, I was that guy who really wasn't trying to profess the Lord Jesus Christ in school. I wanted to fit in with everybody else. So my dad, he was very, he allowed us to be children. Really? He allowed us. My grandfather was a little different. My grandfather was extremely strict. There were rules like, you know, women didn't wear pants. So we grew up in a strict Pentecostal background, and, you know, makeup and all those different things. My dad was entirely different. My dad allowed us to be children. We went out trick-or-treating. I mean, yeah, we were kids. He allowed us to be kids, you know. And so I appreciate my father for that. It is 10 of us all together. So I have 9 brothers and sisters. So I'm the 3rd oldest, and I have 7 younger than me. So he allowed us to be children. He allowed us to have fun. Now, he didn't necessarily do a whole lot of that with us because he's older. My father, he's 83, so he was an older father. Yeah. But he allowed us to have fun and enjoy each other and enjoy our childhood.
So look, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but you know, I want to see the contrast, if there is, in relations to you raising your child, your children, from your upbringing.
So I have 2 daughters, and they both are adults. My oldest is 25, and my baby girl's 21.
Okay, you got grown children.
Yeah, I have grown children. Yeah, absolutely. So they're both adults, and so I tried to give them a little more balance than I had, even though my father was not strict. We still was at church all of the time. It was church. My daughters, sometimes I think I gave them too much balance. Yeah, but I wanted them to have a desire to have a relationship with God for themselves. I didn't want it to be forced or coerced on them. And so I realized if they, connected and had a relationship with God for themselves, I don't have to continue to, make them do things and make them come to church and make them. So I wanted it to be something that is organic, something that they accepted Christ for themselves and not because my dad's a pastor.
I believe in talking about real issues.
Absolutely.
We live in a real world.
A real world.
A real issue.
Yes, sir.
And I was raised and reared in an apostolic home.
That's me too.
And, since we're talking about parents, so I don't know if you know, but I was hospitalized for like 2 weeks. Head surgery, so my mom, thank God for her, she came out here to aid her baby. You know what I mean?
Wow, okay.
But in the midst of her out here aiding me, I got a chance to know my mother as a human being, opposed to knowing my mother as a parent. Yeah. Because when I was raised, it was like this is the rules of the highway.
This is what you're gonna do. Absolutely.
As an adult, I get a chance to really understand my mom. She has emotions.
Absolutely.
She has all the qualities
that you absolutely.
So talk about your relationship with your parents. Now, did you know your parents both as human and parent as a child, or did you kind of develop that as a?
I think as I grew older, I realized, okay, hey, they're human just like I'm human. As a child, I viewed my dad as Superman. Like he's the man. He doesn't have emotions. But as I've grown and now that I'm a parent, it helps me understand my parents better. I understand some of the things that they were doing, some of the decisions they made. They had to make those decisions for the betterment of our family. And I didn't understand that as a child, but now that as an adult and as a parent, I get it now. So I think that's important for you to understand too, that your parents are human. And sometimes you don't see that as a child because they're the person you look to for protection, provision, guidance, and all those different things. But now you're an adult, you don't necessarily look to them for protection and provision. Now you're like, hey, mom hurts, mom has emotions, dad has emotions, And so you're able to see that, and you're able to see the human side to them, I guess.
So what would you say was your road to Damascus, finding your identity, opposed to saying, my dad was a pastor, so
I'm going to have to be, Well, it's funny, I didn't want to be a pastor.
Okay.
I mean, no, that was not my desire. That was not something I felt like the strong urge or call to. As a child, I was always a leader, though. I was always the one who led in my neighborhood, in school. All of my friends say, let's call Jack and see what he says. Right? So I was always that leader, but I never viewed it from the pastoral vantage point of leading. I saw my father pastor, my grandfather. You know, I've had friends who's pastors, and I've always been close to my pastor, but I never, necessarily desired that for myself. But God had a plan for me, and no matter how much you want to run and hide.
Wait a minute, I'm listening.
Yeah. Say run, hide, no parts of it. Matter of fact, I didn't even want to preach. I was okay just playing the organ.
Okay.
And I was okay backing up the other preachers. Hey, you preaching? Okay, I got you. I don't necessarily have to do this.
Yeah.
A year or so later, before I preached my trial.
What was your sermon?
My initial sermon, it was, and do you not remember?
You remember?
I do remember that, yeah. So it was actually March of 2004.
Okay.
So almost 20, this coming March will be 20 years I've been preaching the gospel. So, and do you not remember? And it was when the disciples were on the boat with Jesus, and Jesus just fed the multitudes, and they were hungry, and they were complaining like, Jesus, what are we going to do? And Jesus had to remind them, did you all just see me feed the multitude? Like, if I did that for them, I got you. So that was my sermon. And do you not remember? So,
we're dealing with ancient texts.
Yep.
Talking about
this is true.
Bible.
Yep.
A lot of poetry is in the Bible.
Yep.
But I think it's amazing how a preacher can take so many old stories and contemporize them.
Absolutely.
And people sitting out in the congregation, they're like, he's talking.
Yeah, like that's me, right? Yeah.
So how did you kind of hone your homiletics skills?
So my father, as a child, my dad, he always told stories because he had smaller children in the church, so he had to tell stories to make it relevant to us. Like you just telling me thus and thou, we're not gonna get that. But when he told stories, it made us be able to relate those stories to us, to our personal lives. And so I took that as a tool, and so anytime I'm preaching, I always try to tie it into something that's going to relate a story that you may forget the text I preach, but you may be able to say it was a story that he told me that reminded me, or that really resonated with me. Because think about it, when Jesus preached, he would tell stories. Hey, there was a man who had two sons, or he would always use parables that would pull them in and say, okay, oh, you got me now, all right. And so how can I relate this to my life? And that's something that we as preachers have to make sure that we do. How do we take, like you said, that ancient text and make it relevant to 21st century? How do we make it deal with the social injustice, all the different things that we're facing, all the calamity that we go through in life? How do we make this text speak?
So I'm reminded of a story, Pastor.
There you go. Huh? So you got a preacher in you right there. Yes, sir.
Reverend Tim White, one of my good friends, he gave this story on Dexter Walker. Oh, we got some work to do because I seen him do a congratulatory.
Yeah.
Connecting with the
and Tim, I'm about to say he was out here some years ago. And I had an opportunity to connect with him. So every time I go to Chicago, I see him, and it's good to
Tim,
see him.
we love you.
Yeah, we love you, Tim.
I'm about to give your story.
We love you.
So hopefully I give it right now. So it was a woman. She was driving a car, and her daughter or son, one of them, sitting in the back.
Okay.
Thank you, Holy Ghost.
I know.
They were riding through a storm.
All right.
Okay? And then every time the mama would look through the rearview window, she said her daughter, her son was back there smiling. So he said, so eventually the storm just get to raging and everything like that. And eventually the mom said, why are you back there smiling?
What are you smiling? We're in a storm. What are you smiling?
You're driving through turmoil. You're driving through all this. And he said, the reason why I'm smiling is because God wanted to know how I look in the midst of the storm. Stories like that, they stick with you.
They stick with you. And it helps you when you actually go through a storm. You're like, man, how do I respond? How do I look when I go through the storm? That's good. Tim, that's good. I'm going to use that story, man. We're going to give you credit for it the first time. Not necessarily a story as a child, but the other day I had to preach at Progressive for their pastor and wife.
Progressive,
for the pastor and wife anniversary. And so the theme for the meeting was "In God We Trust."
Okay.
And so I told a story about my grandson. And my grandson Carter, he's 4 years old.
Listening.
Okay, he's 4 years old. We call him Cautious Carter.
Okay.
He is very cautious. He does not like to be injured. He's not one of those daredevil little boys. He is very, if it looks like it's gonna hurt him, he don't want no part of it.
Right.
So the other day he was on the second step. We have a little landing in my house, a little second step. So he's on the second step. So I tell him, hey, Carter, come on, jump off the second step, jump into Papa's arms. So he was nervous, concerned, scared, like, Papa, no, but I said, come on, Carter, you can do it. And so he jumps into my arms. And so I'm encouraged, like, Carter, you did it. He's like, yeah, Papa, I did it. He's real excited about it. So a couple of days later, he's on the fourth step. And so he's on the fourth step, and I am looking I'm at the bottom of the steps, but I'm not, really paying attention to him.
Right.
But all of a sudden I turn back around and I see him getting ready to jump. So he jumps without me even paying attention. So I had to hurry up, turn around, and catch him. So he jumps, I catch him, and he's like, oh, Papa, you caught me. I'm like, yeah, Carter, I caught you. What made you jump? He said, Papa, the reason I jumped, because the last time I jumped, you caught me.
Wait a minute. That's a message.
He said, like, you caught me. You didn't let me hurt myself. You didn't let me fail. You caught me.
Wait a minute. I'm with you.
Yeah. And you told me to jump last time, and you was right there to catch me.
And so what God is saying, huh?
Exactly.
I'm still here.
I'm still here. If you trust me, if I told you to do it last, I got you this time too. So
wow, I needed that. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
On that note, listen, we're gonna go to Pastor Jack Spencer playing the organ. Have a dream, it's important to write the vision because your obedience blesses others. Listen, I started a magazine, the Gospel Music Gazette, to celebrate Black excellence and to commemorate this beautiful art form that we know of as gospel music. We have a combo bundle available for you. Would you secure the bundle? Would you do it? It's from my heart to yours. And as I always say, love on someone and you will change your life.